Everyone can hear me and see me?
Yes.
All good.
Yeah.
Good, good. Okay, so today I thought we'd carry on the same theme of the Sunday law. When is it? Um, so, what dates do we have that we're still considering? Anyone want to call them out? One of them, more of them? July 18th, is that right?
July 18th. Yeah.
July 18th.
November 5th.
And anything in between so that I can get the space right on the board, or is the next one November?
I don't
Nothing.
think the DNC was a legitimately considered time, but I think that was the only thing in between, and that was in August.
That's the RNC, and then November 5th. Election. Any more?
January 6th.
January, is that the next one? Nothing in
Yes.
December? Okay. What's January 6th? What's the event?
Electoral vote.
Total.
No, it's the
Is that
confirmation.
right? Information.
It's confirmation.
Confirmation.
Is it called inauguration or is it confirmation?
No, the inauguration is the 20th of January.
Ah, okay. So this is the confirmation. Oh yeah, I remember now. And then what would be the next one if there is another one?
Inauguration.
Aaron, how about November 13 when Trump calls Putin and tells him not to escalate? That could mark the death of the King of the South by the King of the North.
Okay, really good point, and I'm going to go into that. Actually, is my very next point. So I'm not going to put it up there because I don't think it's correct. But after I've explained myself, feel free to argue back, and then we can put it up there if we think so. But because I'm doing space on the board, they want to be. Is that okay? Or do you want me to put it up there, Gloria?
Yes.
It's okay. So what would be the next one? Sorry, January 20th or 21st?
20th.
20.
20th. And that you said was the inauguration. Inauguration. Yes. If that's wrong spelling, let me know. Any after that? Or is that the last one? Okay, what about the whole year? I heard in one of the meetings the whole year, because 2014 was a whole year. 2021. Let me put that up there.
2025.
Sorry.
2025.
So that would be January would be 2025. Are you saying a later date in 2025? Could be Sunday
No,
or
I
whatnot?
thought I thought I heard, I mean, in the um was it Elena? The whole of the 2025. No?
Oh.
I may be wrong, but
So when we were
because
discussing it with Parminder, we were talking about 2024. It's the whole year.
a couple of weeks ago.
If you wanted to do a whole year, it would be midway, it would be July 2024 to July 2025. If you wanted to include all those dates. Or you could just do a whole year of 2024.
Okay, so because people like Elena aren't here to discuss, we'll have to just stick to what the people in this group today think or believe. Or even if you've heard of it and can explain it and defend it. Even if you don't really believe it, we'll put as many up there as we can. So, should we put let's put the whole of 2024 in.
I just wanted to put it out there. That's not what I believe. I just heard that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I figured that, yeah. So 2024, the whole year. Whey. In fact,
If we include the death of the king of the south and like Assad leaving Syria, we could put the whole year of 2024. All those events are coming up now.
okay. So I've done a dotted line because that's technically not 2024, but you might just want to have a gray area where you want to include. So it's a dotted line. Okay. Now, I want to take a little bit of time to explain something. This concept is actually fairly new to me. Expect me to mess it up. But when we say the whole year, I'm thinking that's because we have many stories in our message now. So we have many stories many events from different stories that all line up in the same year. Okay, this is me being high tech. I don't even know how to screen share. But if you look at 2001, oh, that's too bright. Okay. So I don't even know where I got this graphic from. I don't even know if it's correct. I didn't double check all of these events. I don't even know if you can see them. It doesn't really matter. My point is that in our message, we've got so many stories that we've got all these different events happening in one year. Let me take 2001. I'll just read what it says, even if I don't really know what it's talking about. It says Russia and China. Okay, so there's one story apparently. China and the Uyghurs. I guess that would be politics. You're being a naughty boy, Sonny. Like your daddy. Okay. I've got Hong Kong, Turkey, Afghanistan. That would be King of the North versus King of the South story. ISIS Caliphate. Now, I've said in a forum, I don't know if that would be Islam in Bible prophecy or spheres of influence. Syria, US strikes. That would be spheres of influence. King of the North versus King of the South. Gay marriage. That would be LGBT rights. Trans hero. Same, LGBT rights. I guess that's the Hero Act. LGBT Southern Baptist Church, LGBT SDA, same. And then I've got women's ordination. That would be women's rights, gender equality. So the point for 2001 is if I said to you, so that probably covers the whole year if you've got put dates to all of those events. But which story, this is what I mean. If I said to you in 2001, now if I said to you now, when did the east wind hurt the army of Rome? Then the answer is one day, 9/11. If I say when was the east wind restrained? You'd say one day, 11/9, Mazar al-Sharif. If I said what about LGBT rights? There was 2 or 3 in there, so maybe you have a window of a few months. Okay. So when I do this, what's the story? Because the Sunday law isn't the story of the King of the North versus the King of the South. Story, what would the story be called in the Bible?
Isn't Sunday law about King of the North and King of the South, Daniel 11:40, the latter part?
I don't think so, but again, this is a new concept to me. I could be wrong.
I'm thinking of
Because
the King of the North, King of the South relating to Daniel 2, the statue symbolizing Babylon being the counterfeit, though, King of the North. I don't know.
I don't see the King of the South in Daniel 2. I'm thinking
You're right.
Daniel 11, 14 and 15 is Raphia, I think. Raphia and Panium. I'm thinking Pyrrhus, Beneventum, Argos. I'm thinking of all of that. Now, some of those events, some or all of them maybe, line up with the Sunday law and with other, like 2016 lines up with Ipsos and all of that.
How about Aaron? How about Daniel 11:41, when the King of the North defeats the glorious land? Would that be the
Exactly.
waymark?
So you've got, yes, it would. Sunday law of Daniel 11:41 is the Sunday. So you've got the King of the North. I'm going to use the old model. No, I won't do that. Let's make application. Let's use. Okay. Anyway, I'm just going to say the king of the north enters into the glorious land. Let's put it that way. Keep it simple. There's no king of the south in that verse. In that, I'm already getting in a muddle. Let me teach it the way I understand it, and we'll try and refine it over the months and weeks and months. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. So the Sunday law in the Bible is called the mark of the beast. So I'm going to put the most important story is the mark of the beast. And then what happens when we line up Pyrrhus, stories of Pyrrhus, we say the death of the king of the south occurs at the Sunday law waymark. But you need to know what the Sunday law waymark is first. You wouldn't do it the other way around. I feel myself already. Any thoughts? I need a drink of water.
Yeah, I have one thought, but I don't want to muddle up everything all the more. But when you were reading all the events in 2001, and then you also showed the events of 2014, and some of the events when you were reading them, we weren't seeing them as you were reading them, but some of them sounded like they belonged in 2014, like the Southern Baptist Convention and Trans Hero, I heard, which was listed in
True.
2014. And so, but beyond that, what caused me the greatest confusion initially was that Elder Tess expressed to us that the Sunday law would be like 2014 with all those events, right? So when people started posting in Bible study about the how the right was doing in some of the states about abortion, what they were doing in some of the states about gender care, etc. I began to, as each one of those began to come to rise, I began to think, wow, these are the events, right? That they sound like the Sunday law because they were reminding me of 2014 when Elder Tess said those events, all those events would be the Sunday law. It wouldn't just be like, she kind of made it to me, and maybe I remember wrong, but to me, it seemed like we were to expect not just one thing specifically, but a lot of things that would compose the Sunday law. So when Gloria brought up, I think it was you, Gloria, that brought up in Elder Parmender's class the whole year. Whether that's your belief or not, I don't know. But I do believe you're the one who brought that up. And I had never heard that yet before, that the whole year, 2014, would be the Sunday law. But as we've studied, and Elaine's done classes on it, and you've counseled me on my confusion, Aaron, I do believe it has, and I always, before Elder Tess said that about 2014, I always believed it had to be some kind of monumental event that would mark the Sunday law, so as it would be no mistaking of it, kind of. Not that all those other elements don't play a part in people's ideology and the way that they turn out to vote or what they're voting for, but that it would have to be where it's given to the whole population, so to speak, to make the choice. And so that's when I landed on it has to be November 5th. It just has to be November 5th. But my confusion still sort of is how to marry all those events that we were told would compose the Sunday law and how we.
I was
But anyway.
communicating with Elder Parmender this week through text, and he's not putting a date right now. I just commented about hindsight being perfect sight, and he agreed with that. So in all humility, he said we have to just wait, and we'll know when. Yeah, and I think he also commented like Sunday law will pass and we wouldn't even know it or something like that too in the past.
Okay.
Gora, can you repeat what Elder Parminder said? Sorry, that missed me.
He's not setting a date on when the Sunday law waymark is at this point, but just like 2014, he said, well, I commented, or should we just wait and see, let time go by? And hindsight is perfect sight. And he agreed upon that. Yeah. So he's just waiting.
Okay,
So
thank
we're
you.
in our final test, and when you're in university or whatever parable you want to use, the teacher doesn't give you the answers to your final test. Okay, so you're right. Elder Parminder's not going to tell us. He's going to tell us to wait, study it out, come to your own conclusion. Okay. Let me try and explain it a bit better. 2019, it was November the 9th that was revolutions. Is that right? November the 9th comes under the story of revolutions.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2019 was also a shut door to the priests, and it was also the shaking of FFA. Okay, so you don't line up the shaking of FFA with the date November 9th story of revolutions, or with the shut door, because FFA fell away last week of August, and then you've got November 9th sometime after. So my point with the King of the North and the King of the South is, while they might happen in a small window, you're not going to identify when the mark of the beast is, the Sunday law, by looking at the story of the King of the North and the King of the South and identifying a day. So if I said to you, what is the mark of the beast in our dispensation? We've said it's voting. So you can't say Trump calling Putin was the Sunday law. No
Is it mark of the
voting.
beast patriarchy? Not voting. It's patriarchy versus equality.
Yeah, so you've got two issues: patriarchy and the fall of democracy. Gender equality, fall of democracy. Those are the two tests at Sunday.
And wasn't November 5th kind of a litmus test that revealed both? Because if you voted for Trump, then you're essentially voting for the patriarchy.
I would think so.
For upholding it.
Yeah. You can just imagine Elder Ted
But
presenting that
this is
really
not
well.
this is not the last election. Under Trump, we'll have more elections. So this doesn't really determine the last election. Yeah.
No, so we're not looking for the last election, because Elder Parminder's done that study where you've got the Sunday law waymark, then you've got voting before during the agitation and voting after during the Sunday law history or dispensation. So the last one would be at the end of that dispensation. So the last one isn't particularly relevant. Okay, if I made myself in any way clear, we're looking for when the mark of the beast is, and then we would line up the death of the King of the South with that. And I'm sure it's not going to be on the same day. It would be around the same area. Okay, I'll move on. So the mark of the beast, where would we put the mark of the beast? And we might have a few options. You might want to consider a couple of different places. So July 18th. So the mark of the beast, it's the people that get it. Okay, we'll just stick with America. So it's the people of America that do something to get the mark of the beast. So did the people of America do anything on July 18th at the RNC? Anyone want to put it there?
I would say no, as a
No.
people as a whole.
Yeah.
It's only
You know,
certain
You and I.
in the plain of Jura of Daniel, it wasn't everybody standing there to bow on the image of the beast. It was just the delegates, the sheriffs, just the main people. It wasn't the whole people there. It's a cause, and the effect is November 5th.
Okay, so now you're going to a different story. And that's why I want to stick with the story of the Sunday law. Because image to the beast, I'm going to have a list here. It's going to come down here somewhere. It's going to come somewhere else because we haven't done a study on that. So the image is set up. Then I think if you're going to use that parable, because parables have limitations, then maybe it's uncovered and the delegates are there, then there's some music, then there's a command to bow, and then the people bow. And I don't know, I don't innovate. I would be able to put each step wherever. So I'm not going to use the image of the beast as my primary source, my primary evidence. Just like I'm not using King of the North versus King of the South. But we have said, and I'm just going to stick with it, can't challenge it, so I'll have to stick with it. We've said the mark of the beast, Sunday law, is to do with voting. And that's why we've got these dates. And I said, any other dates? And we said, no. So it's to do with voting. So we'll stick with the story of voting. So does anyone think the mark of the beast can be placed here?
Yes.
Shout out. Okay,
Yes.
so how did the people who received the mark of the beast in America, there's about 300 million people in America, maybe 200 million voters or whatever. How do the people get the mark of the beast here?
So we have the purging of the Republican Party that started in 2014. We would say about half of the party was purged in 2014. And there was complete purge in July 18 there. All the electorate. Yeah, I mean, the electorate, not the people they didn't decide, but the party was purged. They crowned Trump as king.
So
they only had loyalists. Yeah.
So the question wasn't how is the party purged or how is crowning king and all of that. How do the people receive the mark of the beast? Because we'll go on to the other things later. So you're saying the people receive the mark of the beast. So I'm looking out my window, and that guy over there who voted Trump and is sexist and whatever, how did that guy receive the mark of the beast on July 18th?
Didn't Elder Parminder bring up the mechanics? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Voting, how the machinery, I don't remember how I said it. But wouldn't that then be, because you have all the primaries for both parties, and then you have two conventions, because if you have the RNC, don't you have to include the DNC? So at the conventions, what do? Don't they just nominate based off of the primaries? But they haven't actually voted the official vote, right?
Well, I think this convention was all about Trump. Lara Trump was one of the co-chairs, and their platform was, yeah. So it was
the point,
all about
though,
Trump.
is
yeah.
how many people are involved. I think that's what Aaron's getting at, is the most amount of people.
Let's stick to the story of the mark of the beast, and we'll carry on do others where July 18 may well fit better. But how did all the people on my block receive the mark of the beast on July 18th? Because something like 1,200 delegates voted for Trump. By the way,
can you support why mark of the beast is voting? It's patriarchy, as our understanding. How'd you get voting for?
So the best source I can send you to is Luke Stanton on the West Coast. His second to last study, I think it was like 6 months ago or something. It's on repairers of the breach. And he lays out any logic that I'm aware of there. For the first 52 minutes, he recaps over what I think Elder Parminder's studies. And then from 52 minutes onwards, he expands on that and lays out the logic that it can be voted. Let me just say, Elder Parminder 1 or 2, 3 weeks ago has already said, you can't get Sunday law, let me put it this way, from the Bible, the mark of the beast, you can't get Sunday law. There's no other denomination, he said, that believes the mark of the beast is a Sunday law. We just believe it because Ellen White says so. Then she'll use a bit of logic. No one else can it. no other denomination believes it. So you can't get Sunday law from Mark of the Beast. Okay, and we've accepted that. Then I think he went on to say, you can't, or I'm going to say, therefore you can't get voting from just reading the Bible text or anything to do with Ellen White. So if you can't get voting from the Bible or Ellen White, the only place you can get it is from this movement, which is still inspiration. We accepted it was Sunday because inspiration said so, Ellen White. And I'm accepting that it's voting because inspiration says so, this movement. And that logic is laid out, as I say, 52 minutes and onwards, Luke Stanton. So what you'll see Luke doing is,
in countries
sorry,
like
can I finish? Because
Russia.
I'm going to forget. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Yeah,
Let's
go
just
ahead.
finish this point. Let me think. That's the movement. So what you'll see Luke doing is quoting Elders Tess and Parminder either a lot or only. And I think that's okay because they're not, you know how to take them. They're messengers. I'm not saying it's the same as the Bible where you do every single word, but it's all right to lay out the logic that this is voting from what Elders Tess and Parminder have said. Thank you. I would have forgotten. That's all. Carry on, Gloria. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is that, places like Russia, Venezuela, they rigged their voting system already. So we're saying that by July 18, the Republican Party have maneuvered all the elections, the gerrymandering and all the electorates. So it was just prone for Trump to win at this point in July 18. We knew that Trump will be the next president. We didn't have to go to election. Yeah, we already knew.
Okay. We actually knew from a long time ago. Elder Parminder mentioned that as well in a recent study. He said, why are you all surprised that Trump won? We all knew that. If you go to the very end of Luke's video, he says, therefore Trump will win. Because he's laid out all that logic. So we knew that, but no one else, I'm going to say, no one else on the planet knew what's going to happen on that day.
But didn't we need voting in order for people to be tested?
Yes, that's what I believe. If you mean it in the same way as I'm thinking. So again, we've gone through all purging and other things. How did people, and I'm sticking to the American model, receive the mark of the beast on July 18? Because that's our primary story. Because no people voted. About 1,200 delegates voted. And by the way, Sunday law waymark, if you're going to put it there, selected messages 80.4, it's your final test. So let's say a delegate here votes for Trump, to crown him, as you say, and then says, by the time you get to November the 5th, they're regretting their decision, and they say, no, I'm going to vote for someone else, not Trump. They have time to change their mind here and cast their vote. But after November the 5th, you can't change your mind. So I'm still using the same model because it's still Mark of the Beast Sunday law. When you factor in that it's your final test, gave you the reference. I don't think that's anybody's final test, but that is. You can't change your vote after November 5th. You can still come to Jesus, repent until Daniel 12:1. Don't mean that. So, Gloria, how did, my neighbor, people at work, receive the mark of the beast on July 18th?
They already decided. We have, people that we work with, and they said they'll vote for Trump even before the election because they think that he does better with the economy. So people by July 18th decided who they will vote for because of his platform. It's all determined.
Okay. So you're saying that you could go out and have a survey, however they do surveys, standing universities. You definitely won't find people that change their mind in October. Impossible. Prophetically impossible. There's some rule, some law of nature.
By majority, people, it's all red states. Yeah.
Okay. So if I did find someone I went to work and I said, did anyone change their mind from Trump? Would that prove you wrong, or what would you? Because there's got to be someone out there.
It won't
What would you?
make much difference because the majority is for Trump. As we can see
Okay.
with the counts, he got the, vast votes.
Okay, so one person. We'll put one tick there. We'll move on now. Okay, November the 5th. How did the people receive the mark of the beast?
By casting their vote for a tyrant or patriarchy, upholding that system.
Patriarchal dictator, I agree. Got one tick. Anyone else think it's November the 5th? How people receive the mark of the beast?
Tyler put a good comment in the chat.
Can you read it, Linda? I can't.
Hold on here.
Or someone, if you can't.
Okay, Tyler, there's nothing good or bad about voting. Voting is the mechanism by which people choose patriarchy or equality or any other binary. We are using Mark of the Beast, then we should look at Revelation 13. Revelation 13:16 seems to portray it as a universal issue. He causes all. Whether that could be construed to mean the entire world or just the United States, that's another thing.
So I agree with that, but I'm not able to teach a class including the model of the whole world. But I still agree with that. Do you remember Elder Tess did a presentation, America is not your problem? And I think that was relevant to the 1850 mark of the beast because it was just America. By the time you get to 1888, it's all of Christendom. And then by the time you get to something like that, you know what happens when I talk off the top of my head. But I agree that in our dispensation, it's the whole world. Elder Tess has already put in the record world cultures. It's not just Christianity anymore. Okay. So I agree with that, but I can't. There's no way I could handle a class like that, I'm afraid. There's a challenge to you, Tyler. You take that class.
Can I make a quick comment?
Go ahead.
That's okay. About causes. Well, sorry. So, if Trump was not if the people of the United States did not elect Trump, he wouldn't have chance to cause all. But once he's elected, now he has all the freedom to do so. So that's why I think the Sunday law is really election November 5th. Because at this date, everybody has a choice to make whether, regardless of the outcome, the personal, our personal vote is recorded, right? Our personal affiliation is recorded. Not, and it doesn't matter if Trump will eventually or not get elected, but the same, let's say that you're looking out the window and you see your Republican neighbor, whether he decided decided the outcome or not, he cast his decisions, he cast his voice. So that's my.
And you talked about Trump having influence from that day onwards. And I'm
Yes.
going to put that under the story of the seventh head. So that will remind me.
What I also wanted to say that November 5th is the most impactful, while July 18th is impactful only within the Republican who is going to be the candidate, right? But November 5th is the most impactful compared even to January 6th because there's nothing particularly impactful happens after that day.
Okay. So we've got three people.
I also
want
was
to make a
thinking,
quick.
sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I'll put a note for myself.
You can put 4 because I do believe it's November 5th. And if you watch comments, if you read some of the comments under the videos of that, of all of that, people from all over the world were paying attention to this election. And they were making comments that, oh, we're in an authoritarian country. I can't believe America is going to do this, and just, yeah, so that was monumental. They were watching. People all over were paying attention to what we were going to do on November 5th.
Yeah, that's bringing in the whole world. The
Yeah,
whole
in a
world
way it
wondered
is.
after the
But if I
yeah,
can separate,
okay.
For our movement, the Sunday long waymark will be July 18th because of that name, Quintus Fabius Maximus Gurgis. Quintus meaning July.
Okay, I want to do a quick exercise because I know I'm not going to get through them. You brought it up now, so let's do it now. Can a few of you, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you, whatever, just go into Google and Google something like Roman word quintus, meaning in English. Tell me what it means. Just tell me exactly what the word means.
Fifth.
Roman is
November
Italian.
5th.
Maybe Claudio can tell us what quintus. It means quinta, quintus, whatever it means in Italian. Does it mean fifth month? Does it mean fifth or fifth day or fifth born? What does it mean? I'll give you time to Google search that. Roman word or Italian word, quintus, meaning in English.
It's fifth.
Means fifth. Thought so. Anyone else? Let's have 2 or 3 witnesses at least.
That's correct, 5th.
Fifth.
But that's the 5th month when they had the Roman calendar, is it? And they
Yes.
started in March. So you have
Right.
March, April, May, June, July. So
I know.
when they
I know
started
the
in March.
logic. Sorry,
Yeah.
Gloria. It's taking longer than I thought. I thought it'd be done. So we know the logic. We've watched the videos. But my point is, it means fifth. So I know that the Romans, they made an application, if you want to use our terminology, and they said, okay, so children born in the 5th month, we can call them quintus. So it doesn't actually mean, now I'm thinking, it doesn't mean 5th month, it means children born in the 5th month, because it can also mean the 5th born. And if you're the 5th born, it doesn't demand that you're born in the 5th month. You're born in January, but be the 5th born. So it means 5th, it doesn't mean 5th month. That's an application which some people in this movement decided to make.
Aaron?
Yes.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning, Aaron.
Morning.
Yeah, so my comment is this regarding July 18th or November 5th. And can we judge it by what we think is in somebody's heart? Or do we judge by what people actually do, put their stamps on? So I mean, I've heard like many people who were Trump supporters and voted for Trump in the first election have now become never Trumpers. So they staunchly said they were not going to vote for Trump. Okay, so whether they did or not, we don't know. That's what's in their hearts. That's, and we know that those things happen before July 18th. I mean, it's been going on for years. So, but we know come November 5th, they made their choice. They made their stamp on what was in their hearts, whether they were never Trumpers or not. And so when you put a stamp, an official stamp on, say you put your signature on it and put your tick by the, whoever you elected for, that's it. There's no turning back. There's no, that marks it. So I would have to say it's when you put your signature on, which is November 5th, that's what I would have to go with. And that's something that's invisible, that's in people's heart, where they can change their minds.
Green tick?
Yes.
So this issue of, well, it's a done deal. It's already baked in. So therefore we're going to put it there. Okay, let's look at 2 models. No, first of all, let's look at the model of Sunday law, which requires an action, not just a thought. you had to go to church on Sunday, or you had to go to church or rest on Sabbath. Okay, so that requires an action. And you can get the mark of the beast in your hand or your forehead. Go into all of that. Okay, so the people didn't do any action here. You're just saying they already decided what they want, and there's no way anybody could change their mind. That's impossible. So it requires an action. So let's see, it's already a done deal. Let's take away Mark. My mind just goes straight to the cross. Probably do this with any way Mark. So the cross was Passover 31 AD. It was one day. When was the cross a done deal? So there's your way mark. If you're going to go here, there's your maximum vote. I want to go there. When was the cross a done deal? Let me go. I'll start you off. When, was it Caiaphas?
Yeah,
Sentenced
Sanhedrin
Jesus to death.
got together.
Yeah, they sentenced Jesus to death. Now I don't remember the chronology. What about when Caesar or someone, Pontius Pilate, said, "I'm going to wipe my hands of this"?
He gave the people the
Didn't
choice.
protect Jesus.
Yeah, they gave the
Was
people
that the Barabbas?
choice.
Was that
Yes.
the Barabbas vote?
I believe
Okay.
so.
I'm not labeling them because I'm going to get. But anyway, it was also a done deal when they voted for Barabbas. And whatever Roman Caesar or Pontius Pilate or whoever it was didn't overrule it or protect. That was a done deal. Judas betrayed. It's a done deal. What about when Jesus prophesied, "I'll die and then I'll be raised again in 3 days"? It was pretty much a done deal then, wasn't it? What about sacrificial system starting in the time of Moses? That was a prophecy, wasn't it? In fact, let's do it there. It was a done deal then, wasn't it? Why was it already a done deal by the time you get to the sacrificial system in the time of Moses or Abraham? I'm moving fast. The reason it was already a done deal then is because back in heaven, Jesus promised, Jesus doesn't break the promise, "I'll die for them."
Yeah, wasn't it like at the very big before the creation of Adam and Eve?
Yeah.
It
So
was
does
a
that
done-
mean we can take the cross waymark and place it here? Because it was already a done deal and it wasn't going to change. And actually, it really wasn't going to change here. Whereas I'm suggesting some people could change their mind here. But either way, even if I'm wrong, it was really a done deal here. So what you'd have to say, using this logic, it's a done deal and no one's going to change, you're forced to say this is the waymark of the cross in heaven. Anyone disagree? Or, as Phil said, this is when you actually...
Luke is present with us. Could you ask him why voting is the mark of the beast? It would be nice to hear from him since he did the
If
study.
it's all right, he
Yeah.
took about an hour to do it. And I'd prefer him not to summarize an hour's work in a minute or two. And the video's out there, so you can do that, if that's all right. Anyone disagree with this? Go ahead.
Troy here. Happy Sabbath to everyone.
Happy Sabbath.
I see you ticking off who's for November 5th, and I'm hoping that you know that I'm the mindset, my conclusion is November 5th. I don't think I needed to say that. I'm hoping that
you want to tick?
Please do. That's what I noticed that you're doing, yes.
Okay, so Gloria correctly told us we should be objective and not subjective. So objective means you take your feelings, emotions, and biases out of the equation and you look at the evidence. That's for the methodology. And if it really hurts, really painful for whatever reason, you go with it. That's objectivity. Okay.
Agree.
You know how silly my examples are. You're a detective, we're investigating a murder case, and you find out it was my child, my daughter is the murderer. Oh no, can't be subjective. Start changing the evidence because you don't want your daughter to go to prison or be a murderer.
You know, whether we
Okay.
decide July 18 or November 5th, the Sunday law waymark is not going to cost our salvation. So that's what Elder Parminder said. You know, this is not
Okay.
the great test. So just know that, yeah, this is just the personal, you know, whatever you studied, your view of the methodology, the parable methodology,
Okay.
the various hours that Elder Terry put, I think about 5, 6, or 7 presentations, you know, supporting July 18 versus just a plain number count, you know, of the results of the election. So do you view parable methodology used, or do you just view the numbers used at November 5th election?
Is doctrine or message or methodology salvation? Okay, we all know it is. It's rain. You wither and die if you don't drink it.
You have a couple more
So,
texts
in
to add
20,
from the chat.
oh, how many?
Francisco and David.
Thank you.
And if you
Okay,
got me up there, I'm
so you're up there.
Me too.
So,
John as well. Sorry, they're rolling in. Emmanuel, Victoria.
feels like November the 5th when all those votes kept rolling in. And
And I'm too. Carol.
Carol,
Carol.
Linda,
I'm in there too.
Christine.
Linda.
Oh, I think that was Robert.
Susan. And Robert. Robert instead of Christine. Anyway.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Work them in if you want them.
I just saw
Okay.
that July 18th as the agitation of the Sunday
So
law.
that's what I believe. Yeah.
Yep. And November 5th as the Sunday law marker.
Okay, I'll put one more in.
Election.
Yeah. Okay. Does it really matter? Is it salvational if you think the locusts of Joel 2 are the east wind or Babylon, king of the north? Does that matter?
Absolutely.
Really? Why? I agree with you, but why? Because we don't
Because
even
it
talk about
split
that
the
anymore.
movement.
Thank you. Okay. Well done.
And where are the other ones who believed it was the east wind, right?
So
Where
if
are
I can just find something to argue about and disagree on, split the movement, it can be whether you're allowed to drink coffee or not. You can't, it's not prophetic. But anyway, you know, it's how we handle it. And if we can all stay together in the future, then I think, Gloria, you'll be correct. It's not salvation. Okay. My point is, if it causes a shaking and a split, it ended up being salvation.
Also a
But it's
matter
not
of our
because
prophetic understanding, right?
I
Having
think
the
so because of the methodology. Yeah, I think we know methodology is a test. I'll just point something out. I'm not strong on this, but Sunday law, whatever date it is, it's our final test. Favorite verse, second selected message is 18.4. The only thing going on in the movement right now is this subject. So if we know we're at our final test now, the only thing going on in the movement is this. Elder Parminder called them contradicting messages in ICM. I think Elena's down here somewhere, she said. Then I'm going to say, surely this is our final test, actually. I'm not strong on that. Can disagree or whatever. But it's the only thing going on in the movement at the time of our final test. And they're different messages, contradicting messages, in the words of Elder Parminder. Okay, still looking for someone to critique this or tell me something's wrong. Doesn't this logic, that it's already a done deal, nobody's going to change their mind, it's going to happen, demand that you put the cross here, which we know you can't do because it stays here, or here, or here, or here. Okay, I'll move on. So people seem to think that people get the mark of the beast here. Time. Okay. How did the people get the mark of the beast here? Can you take us?
That's just a confirmation of what's already been decided.
Yeah.
A public confirmation of what's already been decided.
Yeah. And I guess I'm going to guess to save time, it's the same here. If I'm wrong and someone thinks it's here, shout out. Okay. So the next thing that happens at Sunday, so that is the Sunday law, voting. Okay. Voting for a patriarchal dictator.
You
But
know,
the things
Elder
that happen.
Terry, Elder Terry, in their last presentation, the line of the Nephilims, she comments that voting is not the threading, it's the death, it's the defeat of the king of the south, it's the defeat of the king of the south by king of the north, and the defeat of glorious land by the king of the north. Daniel 11:40 and the latter part, and Daniel 11:41.
So it's the death of the king of the north, death of the glorious land by the king of the north. So there's another issue. So the people that cast their votes here, there was only about 1,200 people, but you can say, yeah, but they represented all the, I'll say normal people, all the people that were going to vote for Trump. Let's leave that aside. Things get complicated. Let's leave that aside. Sorry, my fault. Okay.
Hey, Aaron.
So, yes.
Hey, it's Tyler. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Hey, so one thing that seems to be pretty clear is that whether you're looking at Elder Terry's or Elder Parminder's, or maybe not to place on Elder Parminder, but what he's was talking about in the last couple presentations, everyone's coalescing around the idea that voting is the mechanism of choice for the United States. Whether, if you're looking at Elder Terry, she's saying the RNC is voting and thus they've chosen their king, or if you want to look at November 5th, the United States is voting and choosing its king. And I guess a good point to bring up here would be in the last presentation by Parminder, he spoke about what would be the maximum point where this thing would occur, and the point that I was raising about universality is that the Sunday law is a test that affects the entire United States, universally to the United States. And then that test first hits the United States and then the world. So the question is, if it's the maximum point, it's the universal point for the country. And I think, at least from what we see so far, it seems like November 5th fits that universal United States issue where everyone's making a choice more than it would, a handful of delegates.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. And then I thought I'm going to back out of this because I won't be able to say it as well as Tyler can. So you said it for me. Thank you. Do you want a tick? I'm giving you a tick because you just said that. Okay, I think you're for November 5th. So you said, so the point I was going to try and make, I'll just quickly say it in my words anyway. The only people that voted here was the Republican Party, even if they represent the Republican people or the Trump people. But shipwreck, which happens at Sunday law according to Acts 27, shipwreck of democracy is the whole of the US, not half of the US. Okay. I'm glad that's on record. Tyler did that.
Aaron,
Properly. Yes.
if you don't mind, I'd like to just read a statement by
Please.
Elder Tass regarding voting from 2022. She talks about the conflict in Eden, and it was between freedom and equality. And the choice was that Adam and Eve were given, and the tree was the mechanism of voting between two political parties in the eating of the apple. It wasn't this minor moral decision of God said, don't eat, but it was a system of voting that Satan presented an alternative type of government, a type of government that would prioritize freedom over equality.
That's a good one. I like that. Thanks for reading that. Reminded me of another quote. I think there's a quote which I've already put out on the forums. It's an isolated quote. You should know never just to trust isolated quotes. Go to the context. But Elder Tess says something like, da, 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 because at Sunday law, there's going to be a lot of people voting. Okay. All right. That was a good one. So we're here. So now we've got different versions of what this name means. So I'm jumping. I'm going to state categorically, for the record, I don't believe you can use a name to time set. Okay.
Can I add something? Emmanuel.
Okay. Go for it.
Also, like, I think you're about to go to that point about time setting with the name. If you
Sure.
see like, the RNC date, which is July, I don't think we knew that it was going to be July maybe 5 years from now, 5 years ago, because like the RNC does not fall on July every year. So last, like in 2020, it was in August. So what could I will say if it was in a different month? So I mean that logic could have not worked. July being the fifth month also. So if we put it that way, by predicting it with the name, we are going to fall with the wrong date. But we also knew that Trump was going to be like the president no matter what. And we also knew when is the election for USA, which is like established every year in November. So with that kind of logic, you can see like RNC does not factor into this idea of universal. It just factor into the idea of this small group of people, or which they don't determine what the outcome is going to be in the November.
Thanks. Okay, so going back to the model of, say, a college, as crude as it is, you're in university and your course is European history. And during your years in university, you've done European history. Okay? You've learned all the methodology of European history. Are you going to get tested on the Russian Revolution in your final test? Obviously, no. So what we need to do to sit our final test is go back over all our methodology and learn it, and then apply it to whatever the test is. Okay, and we've never done that before. That's what I said to Pedro, if you remember, during the Q&A. I said, you know, you're using a methodology that we've never before used. The anchor and the lily flower and all of that. Okay, so
You know, Aaron, the RNC is the minority ruling the majority of the people. So they have captivated the party, the Republican Party. It's a dictatorship. They don't need to see the count of the people because they have captivated and they're dominated the Republican Party. And now they rule the people, they rule the world by Trump. Yeah.
They ruled them.
That was their celebration. The RNC was a celebration that they have won.
They have won in November.
Yes,
okay, so
of
let's
course.
take some of them.
They're projecting. They projecting. We can project who will win at that point. Yeah.
So let's take some of the top people, politicians, whatever, in the world. Let's take Putin, Netanyahu. On July 18th, if Trump calls up Netanyahu, says, do this, whatever it is. Okay, let's use a real example. We already know that Trump is in favor of bombing Iranian nuclear facilities, and Biden was not. Otherwise, he would have done it. The opportunity is there now. They would have done it. So Biden calls up Netanyahu and says, don't bomb Iranian nuclear facilities. Trump calls up Netanyahu and says, do bomb them. So Trump's good. It's just an example. So Trump, you say, is going to say, we've got the green light. Let's go ahead and bomb Iranian nuclear facilities because we know Trump's going to win on November 5th. Netanyahu's got his, he knows what's going on in world politics in America. You think that's the case? that world leaders and everyone just obeyed Trump from July 18th. Because Netanyahu knew Trump was going to win here because it's baked in. It's already going to happen. It can't. Gloria. With the
I'm
world
not sure
leaders
about your
obeying,
example there. I'm just saying that, you know, the minority have captivated the majority at July 18. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
okay. I thought you brought up this. That's all. Seventh head. That's to do with that. We'll try and get there. Okay. We've jumped to this one. We didn't take a vote on that one. I'm going to say you're going to get into serious problems in the future if you use this name to time set. You're going to get into a serious problem in the future. Okay. So it's not in our
That was
methodology.
placed by Elder Tess in Acts 27.
Yes, but she didn't time
Fine.
set with it.
Yeah.
Didn't time set. I'm not saying the name was wrong yet. So next week, or maybe now the week after, the month after, the way I'm going to try and present this is by using January the 6th. And in A War of Narratives, Elder Tess bends over backwards to place January the 6th in the formalization on the line of the 144,000. Okay, that's proven methodology because we know at the formalization you get time. So she saw something on January the 6th, but she said, I know what I'm looking at gives you the time of the Sunday law. She doesn't say this. Okay, I'll present it properly next time. This is what I'm thinking. And all I know is on that video, she said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to place January 6th organization, even though I already know I'm opening up myself for criticism. Otherwise, I'm going to bend over backwards to do it. Okay, so that's a methodology which we have learned during our time in university, schools of the prophets. The formalization gives you the time. Okay. So we've never used the name to time set. I'm saying you're going to come across a serious problem in the future. If you do, it just means 5. Okay, so what are we going to do with this name? Does it mean, I don't know where to put this. I'll just put it down here. Okay, I guess no one's going to try and challenge that, so I'll take that off the board because I can use the space. I think it's a serious problem that we can't challenge, by the way, because the logic we're using here is the same. Okay. So is this telling you that is this flood? Is it false doctrine? Is it spheres of influence? I think I'm correct in saying that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So I just put influence. Or is it maximum vote? Okay, any comments on what does this name even tell you? We don't even know what it tells us. Or at least we've got at least 2 different.
So I actually looked up what maximum gurgis means in the original context of Latin back in his time, and it literally meant well, that he was very gluttonous. That he was a glutton. That he ate up everything luxurious and rich. And
Sorry, Alyssa. I think it's Alyssa. Can you repeat that because we lost you for a significant amount of time? Can you repeat it all?
Okay, I'm getting my headset put back on real quick. Okay. Hello?
Hi, we can hear you now.
Okay. So I looked up what it meant back in his day, what maximum gorgeous meant in his time, and it literally meant that he was so very gluttonous.
Oh.
The Gurgis means whirlpool, but it's also where we get the word gorge, to engorge. So he was so gluttonous during his youthful days
that's why they called him that. But when he later became a good general, the nickname stuck, but it was simply like because of that, because he was so gluttonous.
Okay.
I know it doesn't have much to do with, but I think that, I don't know,
Interesting.
the original context of it.
Yeah, I find that interesting. Thanks. Okay. So, to my shame, I used to think that the flood, you would go to the Bible and find out what flood means in the Bible. And we saw how Elder Parminder dismantled that, said that's not correct methodology. Okay. That's all on record already. So, what Elder Parminder did is he investigated each word, each name, within its context. So he didn't go to the Bible like I would have. Yeah, okay, let me move on. He stayed within the name and he said, what does it mean? And you saw what he did. Okay, and that is correct methodology. Because if I say to you, who's the dragon of Revelation 12 or something like that, you would have to first stay, who are the 10 toes of Daniel 2? Okay, I got that wrong if you remember. And Elder Parminder's way of dealing with that is you stay first within the verse, then you see what the context is, and then you see what the whole chapter says. Okay. And that's what he did. If you're reading something that Ellen White wrote, whatever, you don't jump to a completely different story or book in the spirit of prophecy to find out. You read in that sentence and paragraph and chapter and that's how you find out correct context. Didn't explain that very well, but that's what he did, correct methodology, in my opinion. Okay. Any comments on this? Still, even though he did correct methodology on the name, I'm still saying you can't use a name to time sync. But if you wanted to use a name to find anything out, I believe that's the way you would do it.
And I also think that if there was something to have time set with it, Elder Tess would have made that clear, personally. Like when she brought it out originally, I don't know. If there was more to it, I think she would have spoken about it.
The only trouble with that is when she brought it out originally, it was September 2018 in FFA, and you don't get time until the formalization on the line of the 144,000. That's 2021, so that would have been a bit too early.
No, I'm saying that because it wasn't used for time set. I don't know. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
So because she didn't bring out time then, but I understand what you're saying, that the Midnight Cry. Anyway, okay.
Okay, I'll move on. Quick chance for any comments, questions, or anything like
I have a question. If November 5th is the Sunday law, what would you mark as Exeter?
that. No idea. Sorry, no idea. Okay. Seventh head. So someone tell me what the seventh head is. Seventh kingdom, Revelation 17. Okay. For time, I'll do it. So the seventh head, we used to say it's the United Nations, and it still is. Okay. It still is, only we know it's America, and I'll say dictating over the United Nations. If you go back to Elder Tess's board work, she used to draw a crown with the US wearing the crown, then a line ruling over the United Nations. Okay, so that hasn't changed. It's just maybe something that has changed is the way we see it. How does it look in 2024 and future? If you go back to Elder Jeff's dispensation, he would be paralleling it with the 1265th head, saying that's what the dictatorship will look like in the seventh head. And we know that's not true. For a start, we're going to go down here and do the papacy. We know the papacy has zero prophetic role in end time prophecy now. Okay, we know that the papacy has no social or political power at all. So it won't be a part of this seventh head study. It's still the counterfeit church, but that's not social or political power. We'll go into that more later. So the seventh head is the US, I'll say dictating over the United Nations, but really we know Trump is not going to be a dictator like Kim Jong-un, or the papacy in 1260, where if you insult them or you do anything wrong, chop your head off, throw you in prison, or burn you at the stake, torture you, or whatever. In our dispensation, dictating, we line it up with things like people like Hitler and Mussolini and Putin, I think. But a dictator looks completely different to them in our dispensation. So instead of using dictates, I'll say influences. Is that okay, or am I bending any rules? Anyone uncomfortable? Trump influences all the other countries beyond your wildest imagination. Okay, beyond what you could ever have believed.
Can I add something? Because just recently, I think Trump posted that everyone wants to be my friend. And I think that can use a little bit of interpretation to what he meant by that, but everybody wants to be my friend. I think that everybody's cowing to Trump to save themselves.
I agree.
I heard that comment, Elaine. He had dinner with Musk and Zuckerberg and also Bezos. And we're seeing how everybody is capitulating over.
Agree. So when did that start? We'll go along the various dates. Was Trump able to influence people like Netanyahu, Putin, Zelensky, Trudeau? You choose it. Here. Any ticks?
No.
Okay, November the 5th or 6th.
I think there was a few that, like Bezos, I think, was before November 5th, but many of them are showing to do so after he won, after it's a done deal. It's like some were waiting to see, but they were going to capitulate if it was him.
Okay.
But Bezos jumped in advance of that, if I remember right.
Okay. So since November the 5th, what did Trump say to the Canadian Premier? Was it a couple of days ago? If you don't do what we say, I'm just going to add on tariffs or something like that. He's already sent his Middle Eastern envoy to Saudi Arabia. He's already done a bunch of things, which I can't really remember right now. Someone mentioned the call to Putin. So he can do all that now with an effect, influence, supreme influence. Elder Jeff used to say he rules the world supremely. So I'm going to say supreme influence. I'll move along. Does anyone think there's a supreme influence here? Someone said no. No one's spoken up since. I've seen supreme influence here, just in the news. Of course, it's going to get stronger here when he actually has power to do those things. You know, when you talk of influence, I'm not sure that it does. Everyone knows that he's going to take power here. So I don't think his influence would change here. Thinking his influence is here. Any thoughts? Anyone disagree? You think
He already has that influence. That's how
And
I
it
has it.
seems like there's a lot of things that are being put into motion right now that are going to be like enacted his first few days. Like they're preparing for that first day where they're just going to make a huge.
I agree. Implementation will increase for sure.
these mass deportations of illegal immigrants, and I've already heard, is it Colorado, governor or something saying we're going to resist it when it happens, because we already know what he's going to do. It's going to happen here. We didn't know there's going to be mass deportations back here. So moving a bit faster, I'm going to place influence here with a bunch of ticks, if we were going to do that. Shout out if you disagree. Yes, we've covered that. So this, what was number 3? By the way, that's why we've always said there has to be a Republican president in the White House that Sunday. Okay. Just a quick thought, kind of a side issue. Ellen White says legislative and judicial. Speaking of a dragon. I'm thinking of Sunday law. That's in her time, it was a law. It was a Sunday law. And the only branches that deal with creating and passing laws, basically, I know the president vetoes them or signs them off, but basically it's Congress. So in her day, you only needed the legislative and judicial. But today, in our dispensation, you need the executive, because today the Sunday law is not a law. It's voting. I think we're agreeing. And if you're voting for the president. So that's the logic. And there has to be a Republican dictator in the White House to be able to, because the legislative and judicial don't attend UN meetings and have any influence. The president does. Okay. So on that note, there was no, I won't even ask it, there was no Republican or Trump in the White House here. And there wasn't here. But the purpose of having Trump in the White House at Sunday law is this influence. And you can see that to all intents and purposes, the purpose started here. We've already said the influence starts here. Okay. Any thoughts? I'll read my notes. Maybe I should wrap up and carry on next time. I guess we've already done this. Tyler explained democracy, shipwrecked, and that WRECKED. And that ship represents the whole of America, not half, basically. And I'm going to say, when the people voted in a known dictator, democracy was shipwrecked across the entire country. The whole ship was shipwrecked, not half. And from Elder Parminder's recent study with us, we know it's not the mechanism that was shipwrecked. That all held up. So it was the people that voted in a dictator. Someone said to me, I don't think they'll, the people voted out democracy here. So democracy was shipwrecked. And I'm waiting if Elder Parminder is going to go into that more and explain exactly what and how it was shipwrecked.
And isn't it institutions, though, that are also shipwrecked? And the people he's appointing to go into the institutions are just going to go in and break them more,
Yeah, I like that thought, because democracy is shipwrecked here, but it's still progressive and it's going to get worse. Parables have their limitations. So you've got a ship and it's either shipwrecked or it isn't. So that's the parable. But in reality, how it will look, I think, is much like that. The institutions will start to change.
Yeah.
For example, the total fall of democracy when it's all over is civil war. No, you don't have civil war here. But by the time you get to Daniel 12:1, you do have civil war. When democracy is finished in America. It's actually called
Susan,
open
thank you.
insurgency.
Susan, thank you for making that comment. So that's how we're putting it July 18th, because here it says that overnight, Trump will regain the loyalty of the overwhelming majority of the Republican leaders in state legislators in the House in the Senate and of Republican-leaning and right-leaning media outlets, and the ability to raise money and deploy that money for the election. Yeah, so they captivated the institution by July 18th there.
So I guess we can move on unless anyone wants to comment on any of these. I thought I was more behind than that, but maybe not.
Hi, Aaron. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the time when Putin came to power. So, so when we say that there's still going to be elections, right? After Trump, so Putin, after Putin came to power, there are still elections, except that he just never changes, except he never loses. And that one time that he had allowed for another person to be a president, then quickly became, eventually he came back to power. Even while Medvedev was in presidency, um, essentially Putin was the one ruling the country. So what I'm trying to say is that just because there will be voting, there will be elections held, and even so, like for example, the world knows, well, okay, not to say the world, not the whole world, obviously the ones that are perceptive and follow the history, yeah, that they call it the last elections, right? There is a PBS, was it PBS, or BBC series that's called Last Elections, Last Elections, Last American Election or something like that. And in reality, obviously, it's not the last one, but it is the last one because the last one that a change can be made, a change, the danger can be averted, but not in terms of that. I mean, we're still gonna have elections, just like in Russia, they have elections. And just recently, Trump, Putin won, right? Um, so you can argue that people like Putin, just like people gonna be liking Trump and will keep electing Trump, which may not be in reality the case, but there's still elections, right? So what I'm trying to say is that the significance of the actual voting where the votes can make an impact compared to the votes that are with the opposition that is just just a play for the in hand of that dictator, yeah, Putin or Trump. Yeah,
I
Yeah,
think that kind of thing, yeah.
I agree with what Lana was saying, and Trump doesn't want to be seen as a loser. I think he just sued somebody
Oh yeah, is it
because
Jean Carroll?
yes, he only wants to be perceived as a winner. He's a winner at everything, so he is going to control the narrative, which plays into what you're saying, Lana. And I think he sued ABC, right? Stephanopoulos
Correct,
and
ABC.
Union Democrat. And
MSNBC. It
yeah,
was Emmett.
anybody who does not perceive him as a winner.
The elder Tess
Okay, well,
said that last hope was, Hillary Clinton. Yeah, she was our last hope for democracy back in 2016. This election would have not determined or, changed the course of where the United States was going. It was back in 2016 that was determined.
okay, we'll finish here. I've got a few more to do, so I'll do that next week. Speaking next Sabbath. We'll get to January the 6th, the end of January, next time after. So this one's pretty simple. I'm not saying this is any major evidence or anything. It's just something to think about loosely. But another thing that happens at Sunday law is the message goes to the Nephilim. And we know that that's not going to happen. But if you would imagine it, would you all run to your neighbors here on July 18th and say, see, I told you, democracy is shipwrecked in America. We've now got our message. Again, same logic as all of these. It only really happened here. So I actually called up a member of my family that's very, very anti-Trump. And I said, there you go. Told you so. our movement predicted this and all of that. Man. I couldn't do it there though. Couldn't go to the Nephilim, this member of my family here. They would have just said, "Well, wait and see. We don't know that your message is true until here." Same logic. Any comments on that? And then we'll close and we'll do the other few next week. One, two, three. Yeah, we'll have to do it next week. Okay. Shall I close in prayer?
Yes, thank you.
Let's pray. Almighty God in heaven, we thank you again for good friends and good fellowship and for this good message. And we just pray that you'll be with us now through the latter rain dispensation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.